Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be looking at the Ironstone Battle Hammer. Or sorry, Ironstone. I just did the Ironstone video. Earthshaker Battle Hammer. Yes, I got it correct the second time. The Earthshaker Battle Hammer is an odd duck. A lot of these Warhammers are odd ducks. I don't know why. This one in particular seems to be kind of pointed at an elemental druid, which is kind of strange. You can totally use this on an elemental druid for its +3 elemental skills, and ignore pretty much everything else that's on this weapon and not worry about it. Just functions as like an early game, you know, like Hoto or something like that, until you can actually get yourself a Hoto. It does have some other effects on it though, which make it kind of weird, and we're going to go over it together today. We're going to talk about it and maybe do a little bit of theory crafting, who knows. So it is the Earthshaker Battle Hammer with a one-handed damage of 98 to 162, which is actually not bad. As far as damage goes, 98 to 162 is actually pretty good for level 43 and hits pretty hard. It does have a strength requirement of 100, which is relatively high, especially for a elemental druid who would probably rather prefer not to build strength. But eventually the druid will get 156 strength to use the Spirit Monarch shield, most likely anyway. So, you know, it's not exactly too high as, you know, if you're building in that direction anyway. We also have a level requirement of 43, which is relatively low, but high for an exceptional level unique. And it is a fast attack speed weapon now, because it does have 30% increased attack speed on it, but the Battle Hammer is a slow weapon. It's a very slow weapon. The 30% increased attack speed, all it does is bring it up to like a regular speed weapon. You'd have to put like another shale rune in there to speed it up fast enough to actually make it like any good. In fact, you know what? Let's go take this over to a druid real quick, because I feel like the druid is the class that we really need to be checking this on. Because it doesn't really have, I don't think really has a lot of other purpose on any other character other than druid, and it has to do with the effects on the weapon is what causes it. Shink-a-dink. Look at them poopy infinities out of there. Who needs those? Those are garbage. So the Earthshaker Battle Hammer also has 30% increased attack speed, as well as 80% enhanced damage, which is static. It also has hits blinds target, which is actually kind of nice, and can definitely make it so that you could, you know, have some interesting situations going on with, you know, like maybe bonking a target that gets too close to you. The main issue with this particular hammer is that it seems to be designed specifically for an elemental skills druid. You would think, just off the top of your head, that maybe you could use it for a fire skills druid, a fire claws druid rather. But the problem is that fire claws doesn't receive any damage bonuses from synergies, from soft point synergies, and so the +3 elemental skills that this gives doesn't really help that at all. You could also potentially be using this on, for instance, a Hurricane Druid, which might be an interesting choice. And it would give you a higher level of Hurricane, which could be interesting. Maybe specifically for a Shapeshifter Druid who is utilizing Hurricane skills. So maybe you've got like a really high level Hurricane, really high level Cyclone armor, and you're just utilizing this for the +3 elemental skills to beef up the Cyclone armor and the Hurricane. Could be an interesting choice there. We also have the knockback effect on here, though, which really kind of puts a hamper on things, because knocking monsters back is not really what you want as a melee character. It's what you want as like a non-melee character, like a ranged character or a spellcaster. So like if a monster came close enough, you'd bonk them on the head and be like, "Be gone with you," and like you blind them and knock them back, and then they're just kind of like stuck there. Now the combination of these two effects is actually kind of interesting, and I do feel like it needs to be talked about, because basically what's going on here is we have a situation where you can knock a monster away from you and then also make the monster not come back, which is kind of interesting in that regard. And so basically what you're doing is you would say you went out into, I don't know, let's just go to Stony Field because it's easy. And let's say we found a monster and we bonked him with this particular item. If we knocked him back and blinded him at the same time, which is something that you can do, you notice now not only is he not attacking us because he's got knocked back, but the knockback causes him to be knocked far enough away that the blind now allows us to basically keep him from coming back. So he's knocked away, and he stays away. The combination of this makes it absolutely terrible for a melee character. Any kind of melee character that would utilize this would probably be just awful. It also doesn't have any attack rating on it, which makes it kind of sad for a elemental character. So if you were to build like a Firestorm, Molten Boulder, Fissure, Volcano, Armageddon, Hurricane, whatever, chances are you're probably not going to be a melee character. You're probably not going to be built for that. So running in and attacking things is probably not what you're going to want to do with it. And so hits, blind, target, and knockback is kind of confusing because it kind of seems like they had designed this specifically for a character that would not be going into melee. A character who would want to just maybe like say if a monster ran up to you and you wanted to just get them to be away from you, you would just tap them once and bonk them and just kind of like move on with your day. It also has a 5% chance to cast level 7 Fissure on striking, which is relatively interesting, especially since Fissure can be synergized. And so if you were to build Firestorm and Volcano alongside this, you would have 20 points of synergy, which is 12% per level, for a total of, what is that, 24 times 20. So a total of 480% enhanced damage to the level 7 Fissure, which level 7 Fissure is 51 to 61 damage. And if we ran that on the calculator real quick, we could just get like an average. So we take 51 plus 61 divided by 2 equals 56 plus 480% enhanced damage. We're talking about 324 damage Fissure with full synergies, which is actually kind of nice, especially if it procs a decent amount, but 5% is not going to be enough, especially since you're knocking the targets away from you, which is going to make hitting them repeatedly kind of difficult. This item is just a mixed bag, like all around, and I don't really know what to think about it other than somebody wasn't paying attention to what was going on with this weapon. Hits, blinds, target, and knockback on the same weapon is kind of insane, and it creates a situation where melee characters can't even utilize this to good effect, because you will literally be in there fighting and you will knock a monster away from you and the monster will stay away from you and they will just sit there blind and they will stay away from you, and you have to run to them to attack them back. At least with just a knockback weapon, the monster's knocked away from you and then he runs back, right? But with this kind of a weapon, he gets knocked away from you and he stays away from you. And as long as the hits, blinds, target effect is on the target, he's not going to come back. And so you're going to have to chase down like every single monster that you fight with this thing, which is kind of insane. And I think the only thing that this weapon really is good for, I hate to say this, is just simply an elemental druid. Just give it to the elemental druid, let him use the +3 elemental skills, and pretty much ignore just about everything else that's on the weapon. And if something gets close to you on your elemental druid and you don't want it close and you can't run away, you could potentially bonk it. But the thing is that in any situation where you would bonk something, I feel like you're in a much better situation if you just run away. Which relegates this to specifically a situation where you can't run away, and usually in that situation you're dead. I mean, that's the truth. Now, there is a weapon sort of similar to this, which I've already done a video on. It's called the Earthshifter. Now, the Earthshifter does not have knockback on it, and the Earthshifter does not have hits, blinds, target on it. And it actually does work very well for the Fissure on striking. It actually has 25% chance to cast level 14 Fissure on striking. So in some ways, I feel like the Earthshaker is almost like a mini Earthshifter, in that it's supposed to precede it, but with the knockback effect on there, it just cannot fulfill the same function that the Earthshifter does. And that is quite sad. If you'd like to check out the video on my Earthshifter, though, I do have that up already, and it's actually a surprisingly fun item to build around. You can actually build an entire character around that item, and basically spam really high level, level 14, but really high synergized level 14 fissures underneath the people, and it does really nice AoE damage. This also comes in the ethereal form, of course, at 145 to 243 damage, and it has 90 strength requirement with level 43. Now, this can be upgraded, and that's where things get kind of interesting. So if you want to upgrade this, you can, of course, with a Lum, a Pulrune, and a Perfect Emerald. And that is going to, a Lum, Lum Pulrune. I don't know why I said it wrong. I thought I said it wrong, but I totally didn't say it wrong. It's terrible. And you're going to need a perfect emerald, of course, as well. And this is going to upgrade rather interestingly to a legendary hammer. The requirements on the legendary hammer are a little high. I think it's like 189 strength, and the damage doesn't really go up as much as you think. It actually just kind of collapses the min and the max so that it's a little bit closer together as far as the damage is concerned. So don't be surprised if it's not underwhelming. So we're going to go from the Earthshaker Battle Hammer 98 to 162, 100 strength, level 43, to the Earthshaker Legendary Mallet 140 to 170, 189 strength, level 68. So as you can see, we went from 98 min to 140 min, which is a really large boost, but we only went from 162 max to 170 max. A very small upgrade to the maximum, and that's unfortunately how this particular hammer works. It still is a very interesting hammer. I just don't really know if it would ever really be good to actually utilize. Because of those weird effects. The Earthshaker Battle Hammer Ethereal version goes from 145 to 243, 90 strength, level 43, to 210 to 254 damage, 179 strength, level 68. And this particular one would have to be Zotted if you wanted to use it in its ethereal form, because there's really nobody in the game that can actually utilize this in the unzotted form. I don't think I have a Zod rune. I do have a Zod rune. Hey! The problem is that the level requirement doesn't go up right. So, it's level 68, and the Zod rune is level 69, and then when we put it in, it's level 76. I don't really know. It's kind of weird. Honestly, when it comes to this particular weapon, I feel like there are some niche uses that you could get out of it on a non-druid. Like maybe if you use this on a charge paladin, it could be kind of funny. Hits blinds target plus knockback. It could probably work pretty good for a charge paladin because you kind of want your monster to get knocked back and you don't want them to run back to you either. So could be an interesting little combination there. It does have pretty decent damage and would allow you to use a shield, so kind of an interesting little conundrum there. The fissure on striking seems like it could be very interesting for like a Fireclaw Druid, but the elemental skills, the +3 elemental skills doesn't do a Fireclaw Druid any good. It'd be much better if it was like +3 Shapeshifter. And actually, believe it or not, Earthshifter, which is the one that I was talking about earlier, also has a very similar problem in that the +7 elemental skills that is on that also is affected the same way by like, okay, well, if I wanted to build Fireclaw Druid around this, it doesn't really make a lot of sense because the 7 elemental skills doesn't really do my Fireclaw Druid any good, except for giving me maybe like a higher level of Armageddon, which I think is the only thing that really changes. You get like you get a higher level Armageddon, which is the only skill you can use as a Fireclaw Druid around yourself. Or you could use Hurricane, which would be kind of fun to use as a Fireclaw Druid. I think there's maybe an interesting some interesting room for a rather crazy build involving perhaps Fire Claws, maybe like a very minimal Fire Claws. We're talking like 20 points into Fire Claws, and then like 20 points or 40 points into the 2 synergies, and then going with like the Wind Tree and building up like Hurricane or something, and maybe like Cyclone Armor, just so you have like another effect around you at pretty much any given time. So you'd be running like Armageddon and Hurricane together. I don't know. It would be kind of funny. Of course, that's something completely different. Get out of here, stupid Infinity. Nobody's looking at you. We're looking at the Earthshaker Legendary Mallet right now, okay? I really don't think there's much more to say about this particular item. It's definitely an odd one. It can certainly be useful to elemental druids, but I think the usefulness that they had in mind for it, specifically for elemental druids, isn't the usefulness that people use it for. They just use it for the plus to skills. Let's go over to Silas Pen real quick, and let's see where we could potentially find this item if we wanted to get our hands on an Earthshaker Battle Hammer. Alright, so first we're going to take a look at bosses, and we're going to look at the easiest one to find it at, right? So it looks like Nightmare Diablo at 1 in 908 is the easiest one. Definitely easier than Mephisto, which is a pain in the butt to farm unless you know exactly where he is and you're cheating. I've always found Diablo to be easier to farm than Mephisto unless you've got map hack. Dorial in Hell has a pretty good chance too, but we're talking about an item that's kind of a mid-tier item at best. Actually, it's more toward the bottom tier than it is mid-tier. I doubt it drops in normal difficulty. It does not. In Nightmare difficulty, the lowest place you can get it is apparently Duriel. Pretty terrible chance on Duriel, though, at 1 in 7,421. The Summoner has a really awful chance of dropping it at 1 in 46,000. Wow, that's awful. A lot of really bad possibilities to get this item here. I mean, Battle Maid, Serena. These are all awful options. Like, everything in here is, like, either above 10k or just not a good farming option. I mean, Stormtree might be a decent one at 1 in 10,000, I guess. He's always at the lower Kuras entrance. Fire Eye in the Palace Cell level 3. That's a decent farming option. 1 in 12,200, so again, not really that great. These Nightmare level uniques are always cursed with this, like, you can't find them when you actually need them kind of a scenario going on. I don't know why they're like this. There's just never seem to actually drop on level when you can actually use them. And by the time you get the Nightmare level uniques, it's always like it's too late. Like, it's always way too late, and you've already moved on and gotten yourself something better. Which is kind of sad. I think they really need to take a little bit of time and adjust some of the Nightmare level unique drop places. Especially some of these items that are like level 30 that don't drop until you're like level 60. Like, it doesn't really make any sense to have an item with a level requirement of 30 that it would be really good for a level 30 character, but then, like, the first monster that drops it is, like, in that area when you're, like, level 65. Like, it's kind of dumb. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we are shaking the entire Earth. And as always, keep shaking the entire Earth.